Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. Since now there is a whole movement of learning Kabbalah, people teach Kabbalah, there's a Sederis of Kabbalah. I wanted this program to speak about letters that the Rebbe wrote to Shluchim, because Shluchim asked the Rebbe certain things, and the Rebbe gave certain errors, which I don't think, the letters are in English. I don't think the letters are printed. But since there's a whole, I had some calls from people, and also Shluchim, maybe I have something in the archives about Kabbalah, about teaching Kabbalah. They wanted to know from the Rebbe or Rabbi Chadakov. So before I do the letter of the Shluchim, if we have time today, if not, we'll do it another time. So before that, I want to read a letter that somebody wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said that they should speak to Merkaz. The Rebbe wrote here, Merkaz Le'nyonei Chinuch, and he wrote to Rabbi Mindel and Rabbi Chadakov. So Rabbi Chadakov, this letter was about learning Kabbalah. That was that. So he said that Rabbi Chadakov should answer. And this is a letter signed by Rabbi Chadakov. I want to read you the letter so the shluchim, the people, whoever asked, should know what. That's the only thing I found until now about Kabbalah from the Rebbe. I think there's more, but this is what I found right away. So I'm going to read this to you, and this is important for people to know about Kabbalah. Okay, greeting and blessing. This is in reply to your letter in behalf of a young man stationed in Korea who is interested in Kabbalah, and you ask what it is and where it may be obtained. Kabbalah, very briefly, is part of the sacred Torah literature, dealing with profound and mystical aspects of godliness and the inner significance of the divine mitzvahs. The teachings of Kabbalah have been transmitted over the generations in special school of saintly Torah scholars called Kabbalists. In the past 200 years or so, much of the teachings of Kabbalah have been incorporated and disseminated in the teachings of Hasidus, especially Chabad, and made accessible to wider circles, indeed to all who are interested in a deeper knowledge of Judaism. Kabbalah per se is a subject that cannot really be studied without a God-fearing Torah true teacher, much less by one who has no solid Torah backgrounds and is not fluent in the original Hebrew and Aramaic language and the Kabbalah terminology. However, we have published a number of works on Chabad in English, which can well serve as a practical introduction to Kabbalah. These are listed in the enclosed catalog with titles underscored in red, and to parentheses see page 27. In addition, we can highly recommend the more recent publications not included in the catalog. Number 1, Rabbi Schneur Zalman of Ladi, Volume 2, Philosophy of Chabad, and My Prayer, both written by Rabbi Dr. Nissen Mindel. To begin with, we would suggest these last two as well as the Commandments by the same author, and Rabbi Chadakov signed this letter. So this letter was written to this person. In other words, to have a preparation of Kabbalah, we should read these books. Now, I want to say something here that I think I mentioned a few months ago, but I will repeat it again. one of the Rabbeim, I think the Mittel Rebbe, somebody came over to him, and he was traveled, and he was a lecturer, or he was a teacher, and he came to the one of the Rabbeim. Whatever he asked, so the Rebbe said to him, he should he should be like a bee and not like a spider. What's the difference between a bee and a spider? A spider makes a web. The web comes from inside the spider. What does the web do? Nothing. It just holds, it traps, it kills flies. It doesn't accomplish anything. That comes from the inside of the spider. Bee makes honey. Honey doesn't come from the bee. If honey would come from the bee, honey would be treif, a bee is treif. What does the bee do? The bee goes around collecting nectar, flowers, and it becomes honey, becomes sweet. By going around collecting, it becomes honey. The same thing also the Rebbe tells him. When you will teach, when you will lecture, when you'll speak to people, if you are going to be like a spider, if you're going to say your own philosophy and your own ideas to people without a source, it's going to be like a spider. You won't accomplish anything. You won't have atzlocha. But if you're going to go around, you're going to learn nigla, you're going to learn chasidus, you're going to learn musar, go around collecting different sfarim and say over what you saw, or even stories from reliable sources, then it'll be sweet. People are going to understand, and they're going to accept it, and you'll have atzlocha. And even the Rebbe said, our Rebbe, that the Alter Rebbe that wrote the Tanya, he also collected. In the Sharblat it says, Melukot mipisforim or mipisayfrim g'doshay elyon. He took the Tanya, he went collecting from the Sholom HaKodesh, from the Arizal. This is how he wrote the Tanya. So we see that this is what it means to be a bee. Like, why am I saying that? I want to say two things over here. There are lecturers, people that speak, lectures, and people ask questions them, and they give answers, philosophy, their own ideas. Without a mokir, this is what they think. And I'm saying this is because not long ago, few people asked me, do you have anything in the archives of Rabbi Mindel, anything, stories of the Rebbe, something? So I gave him a story, two stories for the Rebbe, certain things. It took me 5 minutes. I found out that when they said over the story, it took him a whole hour. And this is I was surprised. You can take a story, you have to say the truth, the way it happened. But sometimes there's stories that never even happened. Or it's called the Baputza story, and the end is that's not what really happened. It has to be, it's collected like a bee, exactly the way you heard it, not your own sforis. That's number one I want to say. Number two, we're speaking here that Rabbi Chadakov wrote that they should learn Reb Shneur Zalman of Ladi, my prayer, the commandments. Now, these books were written by Rabbi Mindel. I think he's probably the only one. Maybe there's somebody else that I can't but I think that I know that all the books, the English books that Rabbi Mindel wrote, whether it's the Talks and Tales, whether it's the memoirs, a few volumes, whether it's Shneur Zalman of Ladi, whether it's my prayer, whether it's the Tanya, commandments, more. Everyone, the Rebbe was Magia. The Rebbe put notations, meaning that is holy. Those books have to be number one, sold in Kos. Kos is a moisid of the Rebbe. And those books have to be there. So if somebody wants to learn Kabbalah and he wants to see the Shner Zamul of Ladi, sometimes it's not even in print. Other Sfarim, other books are in print. This is which is very important. Because the Rebbe was Magia, this is not in print. And so I would like to say that the Rebbe's in things that Rabbi Mindel wrote, which is 100% the Rebbe's, because the Rebbe was Magia, everything that he wrote, that should not be out of print. That should be in the stores that people could buy. Now I want to read another very small letter. This the Rebbe wrote, also about Kabbalah. Needless to say, to study Kabbalah in India and the like should not be under consideration at all. This is the Rebbe writing. And even to study the Kabbalah in another and more suitable place, this could also be considered only if one is to learn it from a person who is himself totally committed to the Torah and mitzvahs. The study of Kabbalah is not like the study of any science and the like, which can be studied from books or authors in a detached way. It is intimately connected with the Torah and mitzvahs as a daily experience, and like the Torah and mitzvahs themselves, is based on the principle of Nasa v'nishma. We will do and we will understand. This means that the doing, the actual fulfillment of the Torah and mitzvahs, is a precondition to the understanding. For it is through the observance of the Torah and mitzvahs in the daily life that one gains an insight into the understanding and deeper meaning of the mitzvah. And the same applies to Kabbalah. There is no exception to this rule, and it would be certainly presumptuous and illogical for a young man to say that he will be an exception. And this is a letter that the Rebbe wrote about Kabbalah. So we see here, at least about Nasa v'Nishma, at least we should have the books that should be able to now English books, especially the books that the Rebbe was Magia, is for the world. When we print Sfarim in Hebrew, which is excellent and the Rebbe wanted, but that's limited to people that speak Hebrew. People that speak English is a whole world. As the Frierdiker Rebbe told Rabbi Mindel when he took him as a maskir, Tanya is a closed book. Only people that speak Hebrew can learn Tanya. We need you to do the English, because we have to, Chassidus has to be, Hafotzes HaMayonis Chutza has to be for the entire world. And I hope that these Sfarim of Rabbi Mindel, I hope it's going to be in print, all of them, and we'll be able to learn and sell. And the Rebbe shall help that this will zicher, by learning these books, will be Mekarev the Gula, B'meir of Yameinu Amen. Thank you.